Albert Breer hinting at some rumblings behind the scenes. Let's not tiptoe around this. Breer's comments carry weight, and when whispers turn into full-fledged discussions, there's usually a reason. Miami fans know all too well that where there's smoke, there's often a fire burning just out of sight. Chris Grier has been a steady presence in the Dolphins front office since 2000, and he's held the reins as general manager since 2016. Yet, despite his long tenure, it's hard not to look at the results under his leadership and feel frustrated, especially as the team stumbles toward the end of another disappointing season. With just one game left and the playoffs nearly out of reach, the 2024 season feels like another gut punch for fans who've been waiting far too long for something tangible to cheer about, something beyond glimmers of hope or near misses. Let's call it what it is: Grier's rebuild has not delivered. Since gaining full control in 2018 after Mike Tannenbaum departed, Grier has overseen a series of moves that haven't culminated in even a single playoff win or division title. Think about that. This isn't about one bad season, it's about a persistent pattern of underachievement. When you've had 6 years to reshape a franchise and have little to show for it in terms of postseason success, questions are bound to arise about whether you're the right person for the job. And it's not just about the lack of wins. Grier's tenure has been marred by controversies that can't be ignored. He hired Brian Flores, a head coach who later sued the organization, casting a shadow over the team's management practices. He was involved in tampering scandals with Sean Payton and Tom Brady, not once, but twice. Those blunders didn't just stain Miami's reputation, they also cost the team valuable draft capital. These aren't small missteps, they're the kind of errors that set franchises back years. This past offseason was supposed to be a turning point, but instead, it feels like a collection of missed opportunities and questionable decisions. Grier handed out hefty contracts to cornerstone players like Jalen Waddle and Tua Tagovailoa. On paper, that seems like a no-brainer: invest in your stars, right? But Waddle, who was expected to elevate his game, had his least productive season as a pro. Tua, while undeniably talented, has been unable to shake the injury bug, missing 5 games already this season and likely a 6th in the finale. Banking so heavily on 2 players who didn't meet expectations leaves fans wondering if the team's decision-making process is as sound as it needs to be. And then there's the exodus of key contributors. Andrew Van Ginkel, Robert Hunt, and Christian Wilkins, 3 players who could have continued to be crucial pieces of Miami's puzzle, were allowed to walk in free agency. Look at what they've done since leaving. Hunt has been a rock for the Panthers, not missing a single snap. Van Ginkel has been a game-changer for his new team, racking up 11.5 sacks, 2 interceptions, and even 2 touchdowns. Those are the kind of stats that make you wonder how Miami let him slip away. Meanwhile, Wilkins' injury situation with the Raiders has cost the Dolphins a compensatory draft pick, which has now dropped from the 3rd round to the 4th. These aren't just minor miscalculations, they're the kind of decisions that have ripple effects throughout a roster. Perhaps the most glaring failure of Grier's tenure has been his inability, or refusal, to properly address the offensive line. Year after year, this unit has been a weak link, and it's no different in 2024. A solid offensive line is the foundation of any successful team, yet Miami's remains a liability. How many times have we seen Tua under constant pressure or the run game sputter because there just isn't enough push up front? And when you combine that with the lack of a reliable backup quarterback, it's almost like the Dolphins are setting themselves up for disaster. In a league where injuries are inevitable, not having a competent plan B is inexcusable, especially when your starting quarterback has a history of getting hurt. It's no exaggeration to say that this one issue alone could be the reason Miami misses the playoffs this year. Here's where it gets tricky. Despite the murmurs Breer mentioned, there are plenty of reports suggesting that Chris Grier's job is safe. That might feel like a gut punch to fans who are desperate for change, but it's not entirely surprising. Stephen Ross, the team's owner, has shown a level of patience with Grier that many other owners wouldn't. Whether that patience is commendable or foolish depends on your perspective, but one thing is clear: if things don't change soon, Ross's loyalty could start to waver. The clock is ticking, and 2025 is shaping up to be a make-or-break year for this front office. If the Dolphins don't achieve something significant, whether it's a playoff win, a division title, or at least a clear upward trajectory, it's hard to imagine Grier holding onto his role much longer. Ross has invested too much into this team to settle for mediocrity, and fans have waited too long to accept anything less than real progress. So, where does this leave us? On the brink of another long offseason filled with questions and uncertainty. Will Grier stay the course, doubling down on his vision for the team? Or will Ross finally decide it's time to bring in fresh leadership with a new perspective? One thing's for sure, the pressure is mounting, and the margin for error is shrinking. For a fan base that's been starved of meaningful success, the stakes couldn't be higher.